I'm Kurt Benkert, and this is Pocket Presence, powered by Sleeper. Welcome back, everybody. We got another exciting episode of Pocket Presence, but this one's special. We got another guest, our first ever official guest that's not Tyler, Brandian Ross, a college scout with the Green Bay Packers, former NFL player, has done a lot in the league, is now on the other side, which I think that side seems to be more fun anyways. You'll have to tell us a little bit about it, but welcome to the show, dude. We're glad to have you here.
Hey, fellas. I really love the show. Appreciate y'all having me on. I do.
Sweet. We're glad to have you here, man. Tyler, we all come from, I would say, the Packers lens of watching this weekend, man, and we haven't had a chance to really talk. How are you feeling, Tyler?
I mean, dejected, disappointed, a bunch of words. I saw a bunch of content going around where it was like, you got the sense, and we talked about it, Kurt, that the Packers were playing with house money going into this. I think a lot of people, curious to get your thoughts, Brandon, didn't expect us to even make it this far. And so leading into the game as a fan, you're like, you know what? Whatever the outcome, I'm going to be happy. I'm just glad we made it this far. And then the second kickoff happened. You're like, no, I want to win this game so badly. And then you feel all those horrible feelings that seem to come when we play the 49ers in the playoffs. And so it's hard to shake, even though I tried to tell myself beforehand, just have fun. You're playing with house money. It just doesn't feel like that when you lose in that fashion, especially to the 49ers.
That's tough. I mean, so being with the team all year, I knew we would make the playoffs. I didn't know how. I knew we would. Like, I've seen these guys grow from rookie minicamp through training camp. So I saw the potential week after week. I'm sitting there like, we just have to find our rhythm. And like Brian, the GM, he told us, he said, the first thing he told us in training camp, we sat down in the draft room, he said, patience. Like, let's be patient. Because as scouts, we have the tendency to overreact to everything. We do, because we're not in the building every day. So I'm at a school and I see that we, cut this guy and then this happens. So, but he just preached patience. And, we were at 2-5 and we're sitting there like, we're like this close and you can feel it. And then we went on a run and you saw the offense start clicking, defense playing better, creating more turnovers and sacks. So like getting to the playoffs, that wasn't the issue. And then once we got in, we're always expecting to win. And like, I just thought we were playing with such confidence and we were playing very just sound and disciplined and efficient. Like if you look at the second half of the season, our penalties dropped way down.
Yeah.
Penalty
looked like a veteran team across the board. Like it was, you would not think it was a young team.
No. And to me, that was why going into the Dallas game, I knew we would win that game. Like I didn't care what anyone told me. Like watching film on Dallas and watching us, I knew Jordan would have a big day. And I knew Aaron Jones, every time he plays them, since 2017, since my first year there, his rookie year, he's always balled against them. And then on defense, I'm like, I mean, we played really good versus good teams, if that makes sense. Like as a defense, like, San Fran is very good, very efficient on offense. They scored 24 points. Like, you know what I mean? It was
defense played really well this past week.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the tough part of the game. Like the NFL is so hard to win, and the average point differential is what, 3 to 4 points, one score games essentially. So, I didn't feel like we were playing with house money. I knew if we could get past them, we could get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what everybody sees, right? It's not about I think everybody thought it was house money. From the inside, you guys definitely felt different, which is awesome to hear. I think like everyone knows that if the Packers beat the 49ers this past week, I mean, one game away, but really you're a better team. The Packers were playing better football and are a better team at this point in the year than the Lions were. So you felt like you just had to show up and do your job next week, and the youngest team in the NFL would be in the Super Bowl. And I think that's the tough thing to swallow right now.
Yeah, I mean, and don't get me wrong, we're not overlooking, Detroit by any means, because they're a well-coached, tough-nosed football team. But we have confidence after Thanksgiving that we've been in their house and we beat up on them. So, you know what I mean? Like the mindset is more of like, hey, fellas, like, we can do this. It's just way more upbeat and positive. How it was after we started, putting wins together. But that one hurts, man. Like,
yeah,
as
it does.
good as
I also
as good as San Fran is, we outplayed them for 58 minutes.
It's true. I also feel like there's a silver lining this year that hasn't existed in the past where I'd be curious, Brandon, what the feeling inside the house is. But whereas before it was like, we got to string one more year together with Rodgers. We knew we were on the back nine of his career. And so we just had to keep trying to get pieces together to go one last run. Kurt, you mentioned it. The Packers are the youngest team in the NFL. So while this loss still hurts, you still expect to win these games. You also have a window that just opened up in front of you rather than feeling like, oh man, was that the last opportunity that we had to make a run?
True. Yeah, I mean, we know we're talented, and this is when our job really kicks in now. To where we're looking at more talent, more youth. It's so with the window being so open now, it's all right. Let's repeat these last two drafts. Let's keep getting better and just keep bringing in talent, because when you look at our receiver room, for instance, like we're really good at receiver. Like, what I mean? Like, it's kind of impressive where we go on a 3-month streak and we have a different guy lead the team in receiving yards each month.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's windows open, but we're not as. This sounds crazy, but we're not as close as we think. So this is our chance to get better. Because like the goal is championships. Championships. That's always been the goal. No matter who's at quarterback, no matter who's in the building calling the shots, the goal has always been championships. And like, it's good for everyone on the outside. Oh, we made it. We expected to win a championship this year with the youngest team in the NFL. So now it's just a matter of adding more youth, more talent, and the fact that these guys are first, second year players is scary.
Yeah, so it's insane to see their growth too. Like, I mean, you look at, like, I was watching all the offensive film from earlier in the year, and you could just tell, like, in my opinion, Jordan didn't play that much different early versus late. He played pretty similar. He did get better at the end of the year, but the guys around him did not play as well in the first 6 to 8 weeks. And I was trying to like bang on the drum, like, dude, look, he's putting the ball where it needs to be. He's in rhythm. He's making plays off schedule. Jordan's doing everything you want him to do early in the year, but the guys weren't ready for that. They weren't like, it looked like there was a bunch of young guys that had known how training camp looks, how the plays are drawn on the play sheet. Like, they were playing very methodical, where last half of the year, these dudes started just balling off script. Their angles of their routes were changing. Like, it was changing versus different coverages. And you really got to see, like, oh, they have reps in real reps, and they're not just practice players. And that was the difference from my point of view.
That is a very true statement. I mean, Kurt, like, it is hard to duplicate a game in practice. It's so hard. So as they got more and more reps, and like, as crazy as this sounds, like, guys getting hurt was really good for us. Christian missed the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, so other guys had to get a lot of reps and like grow quickly. And to Jordan's credit, he was very just here, steady Eddie, and and he kept feeding guys the ball. Like, I love the fact that a guy would drop a pass, Jordan come right back to him. You know what I mean? And like, to me, that was when you start seeing, okay, like, guys kind of play to his level, because to your point, he wasn't doing anything like different. Like, it's a couple turnovers he had early where he forced some balls, but it was nothing where you're like, like that was just a bad play. So, but as the season went on, man, those receivers, the tight ends, like Tucker Kraft took off.
That was awesome.
Kraft took off when Luke got hurt. And AJ was banged up most of the year, or for the back half of the stretch. Aaron was on the front end, so we're just rolling through backs, trying to find some sort of run game. We get creative with Jaden. You know what I mean? Like, it just, like, injuries helped us as much as they hurt us this year. But to me, they just, it just, that experience, like, you can't duplicate in practice. It's so hard to duplicate full speed reps in practice. And when those guys got 6-7 games under their belt and we're sitting there at 2-5, and they were just like, all right, I think we kind of know how to play this game at this level. And then they took off.
Yeah,
That's exciting to see. Like,
yeah,
it's so exciting that like, and I thought like, and again, I'm not in the room, so like, this is just a guess, but like how LaFleur called plays, realizing that he had to like go off script a little bit. I feel like he got better as a play caller, not having the guy to rely on. Like, obviously, he didn't have like a Devontae Adams, right?
Yeah.
He had to change how the offense was ran, and each week he had to change it because some guys were up, some guys were down, and I felt like early in the year I was very critical of him. And as the year went on, I'm like, dude, I have nothing to say, but like he's putting his guys in positions to make plays, and he's not just feeding one guy. So it was probably the least unpredictable offense in the last 8 weeks of the season out of any team in the league, at least from what I could tell.
I can see that. I mean, I'm not in those meetings, but like,
yeah,
to your point, it's hard to prepare as a defense when you say, who do we kind of put the focus on?
Who's getting the ball?
Do we play too deep because Watson and Reed are out there, and we're in a light box, and Aaron Jones is back. And to me, the best part of Matt's play calling was probably in the run game. He got creative. He was running plays off. He was running plays. He's running counter plays from plays way back in weeks 1 through 6 to where I'm sitting there like, oh my God, this is, and like, because we were moving people laterally, vertically, seams were opening up. But yeah, to your point, once guys kind of went down, he just started. All right, I mean, he was calling.
Gotta get in the bag.
Oh my God.
Yep, I love that.
Is there a type of guy? I think the conversation in the offseason now, if I had to guess, is going to be about who the number one receiver in that young receiving room is, and if there needs to be one. I mean, Kurt and I have literally had a discussion of like, maybe it's okay that any given week a guy can be a number one receiver, and there isn't a true number one as we've understood it in years past.
I mean, it's nice to have those guys, but at times, to Kurt's point, I think it kind of limits you because you kind of become predictable. That's what happened with Dallas to me. Like, they started trying to feed CD the ball in his spots, and then we get the pick 6. He's getting frustrated because he can't get the ball. Whereas when you have a young, unselfish group, like, those guys are tight, man. Like, they're tight. They compete. Like, you can't tell anyone in that room they're not number one. I don't care who it is. Dude. You cannot tell them they're not the number one guy. And to me, that's more valuable than having the so-called number one receiver. And then, like, you know what I mean? So like, it, to me, as a defender, I'd rather go against just a guy, knowing that, all right, we put 2 on him, we play multiple coverages, we put hands on him, no matter where he is on the field, opposed to saying, well, they got like 4 or 5 dudes in rotation who are all pretty good, who can multi-line.
Got to cover the whole field.
Yeah, and you know what I mean? It just stresses the defense way more to me than having just a guy where you can essentially take him out if you so choose. But
I love that.
I don't think,
how do you
go ahead?
I was just gonna ask you how you find guys like that, because you talk about each guy in the room thinks they could be the number one guy. Like, there's some amount of ego you have to believe in yourself, some confidence you have to believe in yourself. But then you mention the unselfishness. So when you're, maybe it's scouting a college guy, or like I think of Bo Melton, who, comes off the Seahawks practice squad. Like, how do you identify that guys will have that unselfish trait? Because we hear a lot about selfish receivers in the NFL, but I don't think the unselfish aspects of guys in Green Bay, for instance, get talked about enough.
That's part of the job as a scout. So I go into school in August, September, October, November, I go all fall, and I'm talking to as many people as possible, coaches, trainers, equipment staff, whoever, and I'm just trying to learn about the guy through someone else's lens. And then during this time of the year, when these guys show up at all-star games, or now that I can pick up the phone, call them, I can FaceTime them, just talk to them, try and get a feel for them. And like, for like example, Bo wasn't in my area. He was in the Northeast with Mike Owen. And Mike is a big personality. Everyone likes Mike.
Love Mike. Yeah. Love Mike.
Right.
Yeah.
Scouted Kurt.
Yep.
But
Mike's
like,
guy.
Really cool guy. So we were at I want to say the Hula Bowl, maybe a couple of years ago, and we have to interview Bo. And like, when we do interviews, we're very personable because I really want to get to know these guys. And like, as a former player, I try to give them as much tidbits and tips as possible in terms of making a team, staying in the NFL. And I just remember Bo, like his energy was really good. You can like he was there like I'm the best receiver here. I don't care who's here. And it was some big name guys there who went higher than him. He didn't care. But like finding those guys, finding those traits is just time on task in terms from January through April when we're at the pro days, we're at the combine. Like I just talked to him, try to get a feel for him. So then when Brian comes, you know, in the draft room or in an email, text, whatever, I'm like, what you think of this guy when you talk to him? Or, you know, did you like him? How's his personality? Is he going to fit in our room, in our building? And it's like, and like the term gets thrown around a lot. It's like, dog, he's a dog. Where like our thing is, as scouts, is like, how is he here? Like, is he a dog mentally? Can he learn the playbook? Can he handle success? Can he handle failure? You know what I mean? Like those things, like the players, we can see the players. It's the mindset that we try to dive into during the next 4 months before we bring them to our building. So the fact that
I could listen to you talk about this all day. I'm like probably going to speak for everyone that's going to listen to this episode, but I'm like, I just love the biggest theme I think with you guys is you have probably very little immediate gratification in your job. Your job is the long game.
Oh yeah.
And like you scouted Bo in how many years ago?
He came out, I want to say 19.
So like 19, that was 1 year after I came out.
Yeah.
And you guys just got him. You know what I mean? Like, and so same thing from hearing you tell stories about me, like I was with the Falcons for 3 years.
Yep.
And then, but like, I'd always kind of been like on your radar or whatever.
All time.
And then, you know what I mean? So it's just like, it's cool to hear that you peg a guy as whatever you think he's going to be, see how his career goes a little bit. And then when it's time, it's time. Some guys you might love and you just never get the chance to get them on your team.
Absolutely.
That's like obviously part of it.
Yep.
But the patience to like, we got the guy we wanted 4 years ago in our building now, and he's now being a contributor to the team. I was right and I was patient. Like that's so cool for you guys.
Yeah, it's a very slow gratification process, but to that point, it's like once you see the player, like okay, I like the player. Now it's the person in the locker room.
Yep.
Like that stuff matters so much in the NFL. So you know, Bo was just like, I just love Bo. He was super competitive, and like I'll tell every receiver, all of them. I go in meetings, I sit down. Vrabel will have a slight intro for me. He'll ask me a question. He'll say, Vrabel, I lock everyone in here up. No, probably can't, but that's what I tell him. You know, and it's and those guys always remember that. Heck, when I saw Pacheco, when I went to the Chiefs game, again, me and Mike Owen, we're at the Hula Bowl. I had to interview running backs. I'm sitting there talking to him. Mike comes over. We talked for like an hour and a half, which is extremely long for an interview. Usually the 15, 20 minutes, we talked for so long. And we didn't get him. He goes to Kansas City, having a great career so far. But I see him on the field, and he remembers us.
Yep.
I'm like, okay.
That's so cool.
You know what I mean? Like, it's that kind of, that's the other side of the gratification of just knowing that, like, you know, guy you like, he's made it, he's successful, he's wired the right way. And then I talk to guys in Kansas City, they love him, they love the worker, like, you know what I mean? So it's
like you won that prediction or whatever it was for who you thought he was going to be, even though he didn't end up as a Packer.
Yeah. You know, it's a little small gratification to be like, I was right. I was right. Like, that guy would have been great in our building. You know what I mean? So it is a long process though, because sometimes you want a guy now, like he can help us right now. It's like, nah, have to wait.
Yeah.
So
that's so
I think you're gonna get Packer fans all riled up thinking that there could be an Isaiah Pacheco on the team. Is there a guy like in your time scouting that, and this is just purely for engagement online, that like you were standing on the table for maybe a late round guy that he wasn't super hyped coming out of college, and you were like, oh, the Packers should draft him, didn't end up happening, but now has a ton of success in the league?
Ooh, a late round guy?
Pacheco's a great example, obviously, someone that wasn't highly touted coming into the draft.
That wasn't my guy. I just met, I remember meeting him and was like, oh, I love this dude.
Yeah. So maybe a guy like that. Yeah.
He was so serious and just like blinders on, even at the combine.
He runs like he's got blinders on, man. Just a horse, workhorse.
He was at the combine. Me and Mike are standing at the end of the running back drills, and they throw like wheel routes, and he's running, and he runs past us. I'm the best one here. I'm like, oh, okay.
I love that, dude. I love that.
Like,
let's go.
It was like, all right, and like, you know, I had no reason not to believe him. I've seen all the tape. I'm like, he's pretty good. You know what I mean? But any late round guy, heck.
I know we put you on the spot with that one.
It's just so like, it's so many guys. I'm going on year 8, I think. So
that's so cool.
I'm like, I got like thousands of guys in my head who I'm thinking of, but
literally,
I just can't remember, honestly.
It's no good. We can get back to it if it pops up later in the show.
Perfect.
I know we've been peppering you with questions, but I just think like this side of the game for me has always been super fascinating because on the coaching side, right? Like most players when they're done playing, if they don't go off and do their own thing, they get into coaching. I would say most of them. And I just think the process of being a coach is very rinse repeat. And like it's more the same than it's not. Injuries happen, you got to adjust for that. But like the game changes kind of slowly, where I feel like you guys are probably a little bit more ahead of the curve because you're seeing the players that have to come in and have to be ready. Like you're seeing their skill sets change. And like even just thinking about quarterbacks, when I was being recruited out of high school, I was not 6'4", 225 and like a house, right? Like my style of quarterback play was not it yet. And I'm a scrambler. Like that was kind of my deal. So like if I had been being recruited out of high school now, I would have been more valued than I was when I was a player.
Right.
Because it was, you know my play style. So like, it just wasn't really a thing yet. I was trying to be like a white Mike Vick that really couldn't run, but could throw. And so it was just, I think you guys are seeing the game change probably prior than like before what the coaches are because you're watching so much college. And it's just, for me, I don't know. I find that side really fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, we see so much just football in general you got to think if a guy's on our list in terms of like who we go see, I'm watching Division 3, 2, whatever. Yep. So I'm watching just a ton of football and like, I can tell just by the things in college being done, like, oh, we'll see that in 3 or 4 years. Like, prime example is RPO.
Yeah.
And like early in like 2018 was my first year as a college scout. And I'm rolling through like Nebraska, Kansas, Iowa State, Kansas State. And then I go up to North Dakota State. You know, they're a powerhouse, but like they're running like their quarterback run game was, I'm like, and then I saw a couple other teams do it. I'm like, we'll see that soon. You know, we'll see these sort of like the same things, but it has to be different because of the rules, right?
Yeah.
But sure enough, in like 2021, 22, I see the Ravens start doing more kind of like the stuff they're doing now since Monkins there with the quarterback run game and the play action off the quarterback run game. Like, I've been seeing that since 18, 19.
Yeah.
So it was a matter of time. So yeah, like we get the beat on who or like what's the next fad. Like
I think it's cool because you have to think about like which teams have had the most like sustained success, in my opinion, are the ones that are willing to change and willing to grow, and the ones that are able to integrate with young players early.
Yep.
And most coaches that are super, super old school have a hard time like changing their offense slightly to help their younger players. A lot of them, and I think you get stuck in this when you have a really like an older quarterback that's been there a long time. Like when I was with the Falcons, we all had to play catch up with Matt Ryan.
Right.
And it was not going to be simplified for young guys to play. So it was really hard for young guys to go in and integrate into that offense in a real role. Like my rookie year was Calvin Ridley's rookie year, and it took him till like, I believe week 6 or 8, I believe that was around the time span for him to actually become a part of the offense where he was featured, where he had the talent from the day he walked in the door, but because there weren't the college schemes integrated and there was so much terminology, that cost us kind of like 6 weeks of like, he could have really helped us in those close games where he just wasn't ready, and most guys aren't. But when you have a young quarterback or a quarterback like Jordan and you know that the rest of the team is younger, I feel like you have no choice but to not put too much on their plate because you need those guys to play well, and playing well is more important than just knowing everything. And then there's a time and place where it catches up. But I think it's really interesting of how some teams can integrate young players and some teams can't. I think a lot of it comes back to what our coach is willing to do.
It's two-sided, because part of that is he has to know what he has to do, right? But
Yep.
as a quarterback, you have to know what the quarterback is kind of seeing and thinking. And if
Yep.
guys don't get that aspect, because like some guys get that first, and
Yeah.
then the quarterback is more like, okay,
You trust him.
you trust
Third
him.
down, and you
Might not know
don't
what
have to
he's
run
doing
it how
yet,
it's drawn on the paper.
but I know he knows what I like. Like he might not do what the paper say, but he does what I say. All right, cool. You know what I mean? So
give me that guy. Yeah, every time.
Right. So it's a give take with that, just in terms of like offense is hard. First, let's put that out there. Like
it is.
I sat in meetings. I sit in there from when the players come up in OTAs till when I leave through rookie minicamp. And I like going to the offensive meetings because I play defense. So I sit there and learn what they're looking at, how to identify, protections and coverages, all that stuff. I'm sitting there and like they were going over play calls. I'm sitting there like, bro, what? What are we doing here? Play call on defense over 3. Line up.
Yep. Yep.
I might have.
It's so true.
I might have 4 checks or adjustments based on formations or motions, but that's easy compared to learning this terminology, learning the formation, the motion, the shift, learning the can after that, and while we're doing it, okay, and then I was in a receiver meeting and I almost walked out because they were just going over blocking one day, and I'm sitting there like, bro, this makes sense, but I'm like, nah, this is like
you have to hear it so many times if it's new to you for it to just sink in. Yeah,
I have I have like 20 pages of notes from the O-line, running back, and receiver room. I didn't go in the quarterback room. I'm not going to embarrass myself like that. But it's so much to pick up and learn in like a short span, and you got to think like these guys have less and less time in the building now because of CPA. Yes. So it's a matter of like, so if coaches don't adjust, then those guys tend to get labeled as, oh, he's a bust or whatever the case may be. Whereas like, nah, he's not struggling to learn it. They don't trust him yet. You know what I mean? It's just a process of things. But man, it is hard learning the offense, bro.
It is.
I mean, defense has its complications because a lot of coordinators try to get guys to learn multiple spots, but offense is like, whew.
Yeah. The receivers this year, like I would say just from a nuance of being a rookie. So you know how it is when you're a rookie, you typically stick with other rookies and you're going to lean on vets in the meeting room. But as soon as you're out of the meeting room, you're not just going to like drill vets with questions. Like it's kind of like when they're in the room, they're available, but when they're out, you're not going to be asking them at lunch.
100%.
And I want to say like it's got to have helped the Packers receiving room this year that most of them were young. I think all of them were young to where all the time they're able to be learning from each other outside of the building because it looked like that group came up together. And I guarantee you that the extra time that they were spending outside of the building to learn, to grow, whatever, a lot of that as a rookie is done as a group. And I remember my rookie year, like I spent so much extra time with the receivers. Then by the time year 2 came around, I didn't spend the same amount of time with the rookie receiver because they had to do all the stuff, the nuanced stuff, and learning the shift spots, the motion spots, like the stuff that became second nature is not worth anyone's time unless you're a rookie. And so I don't know, man. I hope that group stays together for a while because it's a special, it's like a unique little case study almost of how did this group come up together at the same time, all of them with different skill sets, but they do have some similarities. Like they make contested catches. They block well in the run game. Like they give it everything they have. Like I'd imagine there's a certain like bucket of criteria that you guys look for in a Packers receiver or in a Packers whatever. That's like, if they don't have this, they're probably not going to fit in the room no matter how talented they are.
Yes and no. I mean, a lot of credit, like a ton of credit goes to Jason Vrabel. Like, he does a good job with those guys. And
receivers coach for everyone that doesn't know.
Yep. I love his meetings because he's very detailed. He's very just like, I mean, everything matters from the split, which foot is up. And like, I remember being in there on a couple different occasions, like the one when they were going over the run game and they were just like, he was saying like they spent like 10 minutes on footwork, just the feet. Like how if your outside foot's up, you can take less steps to get to this down safety. And then at that point, it's just a matter of, do you want to do it? You know what I mean? and he harps on like blocking for our backs, and like he stresses it, and like those guys take coaching well, and that's
awesome.
That's a big part of the criteria. Like, are they coachable? Because if they're coachable, we can get the most out of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And, you know, I'm not going to name the guy, super talented receiver across the country. Ball was down in the red zone, and he made a statement about not wanting to get hurt blocking. And I'd imagine that you'd never hear that out of any of the guys in that room with the Packers.
Dontavian Wicks was blocking Nick Bosa on a crack toss.
Yep.
Christian Watson was on Chase Young. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a matter of, do you want to do it or not? Plain and simple. It's not like they could have gotten hurt.
Yep.
They could have.
Didn't matter. They needed the game. They wanted the game.
Them dudes are selfless, and like, to me, like, it's the urgency in which they do things with. Like, the same urgency they run to get open, they block the same way. That's why our run game got better and better as we got healthier. You know what I mean? Yep. Like, but no, those dudes are like, they're very coachable, and Ray does a really good job of like honing in on the details of their craft, and they take heed to it, and they all want to be good. So that's you know, that's part of it. Like, people say it, but like, those guys work at it. Like, they're always together. They're always learning from each other. You know, like, it's a really good group. I'm really excited for them.
That's awesome. I know we have like different talking points and things we want to get into, but I think the way the conversation is going right now, we just got to get into like the Packers team. And the season's over. It's over earlier than we all wanted it to be. And it's hard to not just, all right, got to flip the page. What's next, right? Like the draft, the combine, all that stuff's coming up. I believe there's some like senior bowls and all that stuff coming up too, right?
Yep.
So like you look at the team top to bottom, and just from the outside looking in, I haven't done as much, I would say, research or into each position and contracts, but offense is really young. O-line is stout. Like, for how young they are, they're playing really well. You have some vets. You have Elgie. You have Runyon, who's a vet now. Like, some of those guys that were young when I was there, they're getting older. But you have guys like Tom. You have guys like Rashid that have stepped up.
Yep.
The receivers, you're like, okay, that box is checked. Running back, Aaron Jones, checked. Maybe look for another guy behind him that is like a Pacheco, a young guy that can quickly learn, has a high ceiling, right? Like, I'd imagine those are some of the conversations or some of the things that you guys naturally look for. Yeah. Defensive side has a lot of stars, but like some guys that are getting older. Like, I guess when you go into the draft, is it just, do you look for the holes or the expected holes on the team? Or are you just looking for right here, right now, what can we do to elevate the team? Like, what's kind of the mindset heading in?
So I learned from the late, great Ted Thompson, watching him draft as a player and as a scout. And then from Brian, like, take the best player.
Yep.
So
I love that.
You know what I mean? Like, because once you start drafting for holes and needs, like, guys,
you're reaching.
Because you reach on guys. You know, happens year after year. Whereas if you just take the best guy on your board, it's like, all right, he's going to make us better in some capacity because he's going to play, because he's better than, you know what I mean? Like, it just, and competition breeds greatness. So, like, you know, everyone says, oh, we don't need receivers. Well, there's one sitting there.
Yeah.
Guess what?
If there's a dog, you got to go take a dog.
Yeah,
like, it's,
you know what I mean? And it's nothing to the other guys. It's just like this guy makes us better. You know what I mean? So it's just a matter of who's available, when they're available, and like, does the fit make sense? Like, prime example was Rashawn Gary. We didn't technically need Rashawn at that time. We had just signed Preston and Z.
Yep.
And we take him 12th overall. Like, that's high.
Yeah.
And like, he's a backup essentially his first 2 years. Like, you know, he's a rotating starter. And everyone's like, well, that's too high. And next thing you know,
he's the guy.
He's a guy. So, and again, to like Brian's credit, like, one, he's a hell of a scout. Like, when he gets to just sit down and just watch tape, I learned so much from that dude.
That's awesome.
But like, he like, just talking to him, just trying to learn things. If I'm ever in that chair, and like, nah, we go draft the best one up there, because unless it's like, you know, I don't know, it would have to be, it would have to be to where like the fit doesn't make sense, where you're like, nah, we like, he's good, but it just doesn't work with our philosophy or whatever the case may be. But no, like, drafting for needs and all that. Nah, just take the best player, move some pieces around, because if the guy's good as you think, he's going to make it work.
Yep.
So
I love that. For all the Madden GMs out there trying to rebuild their franchises and fantasy jams, look, take the best available because it works over time. I love that.
100%.
Is that true for every position? I just think back to when we drafted Jordan Love. I have to imagine there's maybe an additional layer of planning that goes into trading up and drafting a quarterback, arguably the most important position in all of sports. So maybe take us into the draft room and the conversation then, because I imagine, maybe he was the best player available, but there has to be another layer to that of like, hey, we're also future planning here.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, so that year was COVID, so we weren't even in the draft room. That's crazy. We were sitting like this, actually, on
just Zoom drafting, baby. It's like a fantasy league.
And, but he told us beforehand who he was taking, and everyone's kind of like, oh shit, all right, and it caught guys off guard because we're like, oh, what about Michael Pittman and T. and like,
yeah.
But like, again, to his credit, and I told him when I saw him, like, you stood on your morals of like scouting, and like you trust what you saw, and like he tells us all the time, trust your eye, whatever it is, say it with conviction. And like he was adamant about Jordan, like he knew what he saw him, like, and not everyone agreed, clearly, fans, media, whoever, and he just wait, and to me, this year was like that long gratification for him, where it was like, I told you,
hell yeah.
I told you.
Yeah.
He would never say that. I'll say it for him.
He's not that kind of person, from what I can tell.
He is not that guy. I'll do it for him. He told you guys.
Yeah.
So it's, when it comes to like things like that, he knows what he's doing. So like that conversation wasn't like, we knew how much he liked Jordan. So once he's sitting there and I think we're picking like 28, trade up to 26. It was like, oh, no, we're going to get. And well, at first we thought it was a receiver. Then it was like, oh no, he's not going to trade up for a receiver. He's not, because that year was so many. It was so many receivers where had we sat there, could have got one. But that was his guy. That's who he wanted. And to his credit, like he trusted what he saw and knew, and like essentially had a plan for him. And
I love that.
And it worked out. But yeah, I
think having a plan, dude, like I think that goes for like most things I'd say in life. If you have a philosophy and you have a plan and you just stick to it over the course of time, you're going to make out, right? Like you're going to beat the law of averages. As long as you have a consistent thing you're doing, you might win some, lose some, but like over time, if it's a good formula, it's going to work. And it sounds like you guys got a good formula in the building, which leads me to my next point. Like, I'm just getting into this side where like, look, I work with Sleeper. I do this podcast, do this show. I've watched more football this year than I have ever in my life. Like, and I used to watch a lot of film as a player.
Right.
So like I'm responsible to watch everything of every game. And like, I know more around the league, what's going on now than I ever did as a player. Cause you know how it is. You're game planning for your specific team and that specific week. You're so head down. And I'm like, but there's so much football out there now. And it's fun to watch on this side. And I'm starting to like, I started watching more college over the last month because football season's ending. And I'm like, okay, I need to be aware for when I have these college conversations. And the number one thing that I'm looking at right now is like, it seems like the way that college football is going, the way these receivers are being used, the receivers are there. It just seems like there's more chances to get the next Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson type year over year than there was in the past. Like I'm looking at some of these guys and I'm like, their ceilings are consistently really high right now out of this draft class.
Yeah.
Where like they might not pan out to be a Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase or one of those young studs, but I'm like, damn, of all the years, it just seems to be like you don't need to reach as much anymore. Like if you wanted one of those guys, you had to go top 10. Like it is what it is. Where I'm looking at this draft and I'm like, damn, like LSU's got some dudes, Washington's got some dudes, like there's guys all around. And for a team like you guys, where it's like, look, if the best guy on the board's available in your first round draft pick, like you're going to take him. But at the end of the day, too, there's a lot of good pieces to be added. And I do feel like the skill players right now, like we say, the skill players are just getting better every year. Yep. And they may not be, quote, pro ready and scheme ready, but the game's changing too, and these guys are finding their ways in the lineups early. So I guess long-winded way to say, like, what are you seeing on a broad stroke across college football this year that you're like, wow, it's trending in this direction, or like these are the positions, and like, I don't want you to give me necessarily guys that you love because I know that's like inside or whatever, but like, what is your broad stroke of what you're seeing going into this draft cycle?
I mean, to your point, the receiver class is loaded yet again. And it seems like we say that every other year or every year now, where I'm sitting there like, well, the 2020 class was good. 21 class was really good.
Yeah.
The last year class was pretty good. And then this year class has a chance to be better than probably maybe all of them. You know what I mean? Like just
it's
top
crazy.
to bottom. Like you can get a impact receiver maybe in the third round because guys are
like
going to fall.
Impact guys.
Yeah, like real guys in like the top of the third, bottom of the second, which is still a high pick, but it's not a first round pick. So, but yeah, it's just trending in like for receivers. Got like a lot of these guys, they can win anywhere on the field. You know what I mean?
Slot, outside. Where I feel like 10 years ago, you try to let me get my X. You know what I mean? Let me go get my Julio Jones. He's my X. Let me go get my F. And I'm looking at these guys like there's more guys built like CeeDee Lamb and like Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. God, I mean, there's guys like that where you're like, he could play X, he could play F. Damn, he could do whatever we need him to do. And that makes offenses really dangerous.
100%.
And I think those are the guys that should, in my opinion, have more value now than just like I think like guys like DK Metcalf, like AJ Brown, like they're good players. Like they're really good at what they do.
Right.
But like you're not going to go line them up in the slot. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're not slot receivers where I think the most dangerous weapon right now is, dude, line up Justin Jefferson anywhere on the field.
Versatility.
And like he's going to get open. Yeah, versatility.
And you know what? Like the real trend of football, what's going to happen, because it's happening in basketball too, it's becoming more and more positionless.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at a team like the 49ers, for example, like they're really positionless. Like McCaffrey, they did the little side shuffle motion to get 5 out right now.
He's playing slot.
He's playing the slot. Exactly.
Yep.
Juszczyk.
Tight end, fullback, running back, whatever you want.
Right. You know what I mean? Debo, he's a running back. He's a slot. He can line up as the X. You know what I mean? Yep. So like, I think football in general is going in that direction, and it's going to go towards, give my guys the ball in space. How it did 10, 15 years ago with the spread, but now it's going to be more positionless. Like learning wise, it'll be positions, but as a defender, as a defense, it's going to be harder and harder. So, like, eventually defense is going to catch up and say, we're positionless. We're going to put our best 11 out there to cover and stop the run. That's the biggest thing. Like, when you look at safeties this year or just in general, if you can't cover,
it's over.
It is. It is
because
rough.
If you can't cover, you can't play linebacker either, because then you're playing against tight ends like more consistently, and then you're playing against running backs that can win in the pass game.
Exactly.
Like it's that's tough, dude.
Oh, very. So like, just the trend of things, like it's like on defense, everyone's looking for the big freak inside backer. Like everyone wants to move safeties to backer, but that's hard. You know, that's a trend that we're constantly seeing. But like, if you've never played backer, it is hard because the game is so much faster. And people don't understand how big these guards really are.
Dude,
I used
massive.
to hate dropping down in the box because I'm sitting there like, please don't identify me. Please don't turn protection. And then once they point to me, I'm like, bro, you go from the other side. I'm not going. I'm not blitzing.
Yep.
Or I don't want to be in this front pit because this is 330. I'm a $197.
Yeah.
Physics kicks in immediately. There's nothing I can do outside of going to take his knees out, and you can't do that anymore. So so everyone's looking for the the 6'3", 6'4", 240-pound backer who can cover and play the run. But those guys are unicorns. Like they just don't exist. But yeah, it's
that's a good point too. Like the unicorns and don't existing. I've been really banging on the table for like, look, if you have a top 10 pick, you are almost better off getting one of those unicorn defensive players because they're a dime a dozen. Like, or they're not a dime. They're hard to find.
Yeah.
Where like, if you get a receiver that in any other year would be a top 10 pick, but there's so many of them. Like those do come around more often, and it's really hard to find like a Fred Warner, right? Like how do you find a Fred Warner? I don't know. Like good luck, maybe every 5 years or so. Like
and like I remember that draft because he was
that was my draft class.
Yeah, I know. I just remember being in the draft room and we're like, bro, this dude. Or it was during meetings in like February, and we turn on the tape and you see this big long. I'm like, bro,
yeah,
because in February I haven't seen the rest of the country. I've just seen my area. So we're like 2 games in. I'm like, is this dude like really this good, or am I crazy because everyone else is that bad? Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
And like
he went to BYU, so like
so
you never know who they're playing.
I don't know, man. He stepped on the field. I said, oh, never mind. So
dude.
like, finally, to my earlier point, that's why you just draft the best player.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because like,
you may not need him, but like you're gonna be happy you have him.
Like the chances of you finding, to your point, chances of us finding Fred Warner every other year, not even every year, every other year, is just rare. Yeah. Like that dude, like you got to think they don't play dime because they got 2 stud linebackers. The rest of the league has to play dime. You know what I mean? Like that's how impactful finding a unicorn like that is. Like it's nothing he can't do physically as a linebacker.
Yeah, and they have a good formula, dude, because they don't have to go 3 down.
Nope.
They can get pressure with 4. They don't have to blitz. They don't have to bring in dime because they have linebackers that can cover. It's when people ask me like, what is your favorite defense? Like if you were doing this, how would you build a defense? Dude, I would build it like them because you need less pieces.
Yes.
You have your guys that can get pressure with 4. You always have an extra man in coverage. And then not to mention your linebackers never have to come out. So you have good run fits like most of the time.
And it's less expensive.
Yeah. Because you're not paying for multiple B plus talent.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. No. Yeah. You pay they paid Fred, they paid Nick. Traded for Chase Young. They got the corners through free agency and the draft, and Ward has turned into a Pro Bowl corner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the safety when he comes back, Ufungo,
oh my God, he's
drafted him, really good player. You know what I mean? They have a formula that works for them, but it's the way their defense is set up. Like they build it in a way that's affordable and impactful.
Yeah.
To where the offense can now, you can say, all right, we can spend more money here. You know what I mean? Like they have a really unique way of doing things, but it works.
Yeah. Well, when you can spend, I don't know what Fred's contract is, but I'm assuming it's probably somewhere 20, 30 million a year or something like that. I don't know. Like if you can pay 20 to 30 million for one player to do 2 jobs, both be in the run fits and be a third down pass kind of guy.
Yep.
You sometimes will pay 10 plus million for a nickel that can do that.
Right.
And so it's you do have some pieces you're paying a lot of money, but the efficiency of the structure of the defense is sound. So that was just, I'm not obviously a defensive guy, but I'm looking across it. And I'm like, every time we game plan for them, when I was with the Packers or even the other side, when I was with the Falcons and we looked at these types of teams, the hardest teams to game plan against are the ones that can get pressure with 4 down, play a 4-3 defense. It's annoying to prep for a 3-4 defense for your pass pro rules.
Right.
But besides that, you can get a beat on them and they have to rotate guys.
Yep.
Where 4-3, you know who's on the field. You know it's going to be mano-a-mano, and it's just it's going to be a long game.
That's what made Seattle so good in the past. It was the same formula. It was Wagner, KJ Wright.
Yep.
Never came off the field, but they had impactful DBs as well.
Yep.
That's what made them different to me than San Fran. You got talk about Earl, Cam, Richard Sherman, Brian Maxwell, Brandon Browner. It was the same thing. Win with 4, cover people and intimidate people. Hit the living snot out of people.
Intimidation.
Yeah, I mean
that's real, dude.
Does. San Fran plays a physical brand of football where if you don't match it, they'll walk all over you.
Yeah,
every time,
and it won't stop.
And it won't they will not let up. So I'm a 4-3 guy. I've played in both. I didn't like the 3-4 because of the run fits mainly.
Yeah.
Because guys are 2 gapping and just 1 gap.
You can't just pin your ears back.
And no. No, you can't. Like you can
Sweet.
if it's, but it has to be like designed in a certain way, and like the right formation has to come. Like it's so many variables, and uh, like
More thinking,
yeah,
less ball playing.
way more thinking, and it's way more complex. Oh my
Dude,
god!
I think people are really gonna like this. We've done a lot of like brush strokes of like terminology and like diving, and but it's really been nice to like get your perspective on, obviously as a player and then as a scout too.
Yeah,
It's been pretty cool. But
Totally. I think we'll have to bring it back around the draft time. I
oh,
mean,
dude,
we're
hell
going to,
yeah.
after the Super Bowl, it'll be full on into the offseason, and that's all people talk about. I am curious, Brandon, you talk about identifying these unicorns, and obviously your job starts way before the combine, but when fans like us start thinking about draft, it usually starts around the combine. How important is the combine, and what is your prep work like before then? And does the combine serve a purpose to confirm, or like what role does it play in your process? Because like I said, there's so much work that goes in beforehand. It seems like the combine is becoming increasingly useless, and I think we're even seeing like coaches not even going to the combine anymore. Like I think it was a Sean McVay thing where he's not even deciding to go. So what purpose does it serve in your whole process?
I mean, for me personally, I'm not a big fan of it just because it's not football. Like I've watched the tape, so like when I'm at the combine, I'm more trying to get to know the players and the person. Like because you got to think, you spend 2 hours a day at practice. The rest of the time you're with the guys in meetings, you're with the coaches, you're with the training staff. You know what I mean? Like that aspect, I need to trust you to do your job. I need to trust you to be a pro. You don't know how to be a pro? I need you to be able to learn how to be a pro. Are you going to be around the right guys? And I use the combine personally as a time to get to know my guys in my area. And then I have the DBs every year to in our little project that we do. So I talk to the DBs. I try to see how they handle things, how they process failure, how they. God tells me he's gonna run 4.48. He comes out and run 4.57. Like, how's he handling that? Is he pouty? Is he crying? Is he moaning? You know what I mean? Like, I'm looking for like the small, minute things that when I'm asked, hey, how was he down there on the field? I'm like, truthfully, he crumbled. And if he's crumbling and there's no football being played, and it's
because he's crumbling over a number, right? Like,
right. You know what I mean?
And at the end of the day, these guys are being told how important this number is. We're like, dude, the 40 time matters, but they want to know, like, what is your top GPS speed on the season? Like, can you run a 20? You know what I mean? Like, 40 time is a box checked.
Yeah.
But it's also not everything. Some guys' game speeds versus their 40 speeds. Like, I think the really good scouts and like people in that realm know that, can this guy play ball?
Right.
And sometimes it moves draft positioning or like reaffirms, or like, some guys come in heavy for the combine. You're like, what have you been doing? Like, first time out of structure. There's just a lot of nuance to it, but again, it's not ball.
Well, and that's why I don't put a lot into it. Again, it's about the kids, it's about the person. So like, cause like what happens is they go to the All-Star games, and they play football for a week. Then they go back to training, and it's rarely any football. So then they do the position drills. Guys are stumbling over themselves. The legs are heavy. They're breathing hard. And like, you have a bigger break than you would any other time because there's 30, 40 guys in front of you. So it's like, that's why like I give those guys the benefit of a doubt. So then pro day come around. That's when I'm like, all right, you should be in shape. You should move and bend well. I'm looking for like the movement skills. Like, how do you bend? How do you explode out of your vertical? How do you follow directions when I'm putting you through the DB drills? Because I love running drills, but more so because I like seeing if they can pick up to what I'm saying, what I'm doing, because I don't do combine drills, because combine drills to me are very old and ancient. Like, it's not football. It's not football movements. Like,
you want to see a football player play football.
Yeah, like, so I try and duplicate football movements, and I learned that from one of our scouts in the building, our pro director, Richmond Williams. He told me my first year was like, yeah, I don't do none of the combine stuff because it's not football related. It's, like, when are you ever going to see a DB flip 2 times or run away from the quarterback? Never. And and if he does, he just got beat. Like, so.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, like, it's drills like that. I'm like, that's not real. Like, I'll flip you twice, but I'll bring you back down the stem, things like that. But yeah, like, during the combine and this whole process, I'm looking for, are you in shape? Can you fall down? Like, just small things that that the average person wouldn't even think about, because I need to know that you can listen when you're tired. Maybe I change something in the middle of the drill. I have two people go and then I change it. Can you handle that change? Can you follow directions? And that's simple compared to what might happen.
It's real football though.
Right. Because
that actually happens.
Exactly. Game plan goes in all week. Get through the first two drives. Hey, scratch it. Throwing it out. Be like, bro, we worked on this for 8 hours this week. Like, but that's part of the process of like learning who these guys are and seeing if they can adapt to change.
Yeah, and there's obviously a lot of change in an NFL season.
Yeah. What is a red flag that pops up for you, whether it be physically or interpersonally, as you're spending time with these guys? Because it sounds like you spend quite a bit of time with them come Combine Pro Day. So what are the things that pop up for you where you're like off the draft board?
That's not my call, first off.
Okay. Sure.
I don't make that call. But
yeah,
I do make note of guys who just like who aren't around their teammates. Like at your pro day, for example, you're home. You got your family there, your coaches there supporting you. Even if it's a new staff, I've been places where the new staff is very supportive. Like they make sure the guys are just on top of things, get everything they want. So like if like your teammates aren't like kind of like interacting with you, that's kind of like, well, why?
Like what do they think about you actually?
Exactly. And it's like, so then that's when while some other drills are going on, I'll be watching. I'll go grab a sophomore, junior who I know is coming up. Hey, what do you think of this dude? Honestly, just between, you know what I mean? And I get some real, like, just try to get a feel for it, because what your teammates say about you carries a lot of weight because they see you every day. Like those are the guys who really know you. They see you on the field, in the meeting room, at home, out at the club. Like they know who you are. So yeah, like it's more so just like the interactions or the lack thereof when it comes to like, I'm at a pro, I'm just like, no one's talked to him. Like no one.
Yeah.
Like he's hanging with the scouts. Like that's not good, bro.
Yeah.
Not good.
Yeah. Trying to hold an image that's being pretty clearly not held.
Yeah, just
I think
be yourself.
Yeah. So I know we got a lot of action to talk about. Maybe we can jump in and just talk about some of these games. We don't have to go in as deep as we had planned, because I think we've talked about the Packers 49ers game for the most part. Like it was disappointing. I think it was a game that everyone at the last 5 minutes or so, last 9 minutes of the game specifically, after that big Aaron Jones run, that game felt in the bag. Then the missed kick happens, and then like things just kind of don't go as planned. What does something like this do, like leading into the offseason, for like players, for coaches? Like how do you what do you think is next in people's mind?
Honestly, this is uncharted territory for a team this young.
Yeah.
So I really want to see how they come back in how they come back in April, just in terms of their mindset. Are they the same workers? Are they, because like our guys work, like they're good, consistent workers. So it's like, all right, you got a little taste of success and winning and people doubting you. No one's going to doubt you next year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this isn't a surprise group. So I'll be looking forward to see how they kind of bounce back.
It's a good perspective.
Just because like, I hope these guys take some time, get away from it, clear your head.
Which is very important.
Yeah, 100%. And when they get back to work, like they're ready, because now the target's on your back. No matter what happens with the Lions, everyone's aware of how good we are as a team. So, I don't think there's any like clear answer for the players. And in terms of the coaches, coaches do what they always do. They have their draft work and then their self-scout stuff where we find ways to get better on the field, schematically. But I'm more inclined to see. I really want to see how our young guys bounce back, because it's easy to kind of have success when no one kind of knows how to defend you, how to scout you. Because but now it's a full year. How you play that second year? Like the second year of everyone's career, it's the hardest year. Like that first offseason is so important and so crucial because guys either take a leap or and it's no gray area. Like, you know what I mean? So, because if you stay the same, then a young guy's going to surpass you. But yeah, I'm really intrigued to see how they come back as workers, as a group, just like the motivation.
Yeah, I think it's important because like as NFL fans are listening, it's kind of like, okay, now what do they do? You know, like it's nobody really knows what the off-season process looks like. They know OTAs come up and whatnot, but like the mental part of it is really big. Getting away is important, as anybody in the space has known. Like guys should go take time away. And I think the biggest question mark that I have going into next year is like, look, yes, it's a young team. They're getting older, have the experience. They should start next season, not like they did last season. Like it shouldn't be playing from behind or having all these learning or growing pains. And if that happens, then it's not growing pains, it's rust, which is like, I think rust is even worse. And then you look at it too, this year has been the craziest year of quarterback injuries. Like go figure the year that I stopped playing. And it's, but there's that many guys that have not played this rest of this season. Like you look at the Bears, like Justin Fields missed a few weeks and the backup had to play. Like there was a lot of games that probably would be a little bit easier than all these guys not getting hurt, right? Like, so it's a fresh, clean slate next year. You don't get the benefit of the doubt being young. There are more like starting quarterback caliber guys. They're going to start again next year, like fresh, no injuries. So like you have to make a jump or you're going to be right back where you just were at the beginning of last year, just in different circumstances. So like, I think that's kind of how I'm looking at it. And there's no answer to it. It's just like, what do they do? How are they going to show up? Which, knowing the guys in that locker room, the guys that I still know, like, I think it's now they belong where they believe they've belonged, but now everybody else publicly perceives them that way too. So it's going to be exciting. Like the Lions have a really good roster. Their quarterback, I don't believe, has a high ceiling. He's really good when things are clean. I call him a really good 7-on-7 quarterback. Clean pocket, he can deliver. If it's crumbling, he can make some bad mistakes. So, like, there's that guy. Then you have Minnesota. Who knows what their room's going to look like? It seems like Kirk's not going to come back. If I'm him, I'm probably not going back because, shit, the division looks a lot tougher than it did last year, right? Like, and then the Bears, you have a question mark. Like, Justin Fields, super high ceiling, also has a low floor, but, like, I think he's really talented. I think that he doesn't have like the quick twitch reactiveness as a thrower that you'd like to see him have, but the upside on the other stuff is crazy and he can change any game at any time. And like, do they build around him? Do they not? So like, I think the NFC North specifically will hone in on that. Like, man, just like the beginning of this year, who the hell knows, right? Like it's going to be a tough division, like every single year, like it always is. And you know that you'll see the G towards the end of the season, still in the thick of it, fighting for it. And I think that's just kind of what you can expect. But I think for the fans, there's not the unknown of what can we be. Right. That's gone. So now I think the expectations are even higher next year, which see how it all goes. So it's kind of how I look at it going into the season.
And to that point, that's why the mental makeup of our guys, of our leaders is so important. Like, that's why I freaking love Jordan because he's like my wife says all the time, like he never smiles. He throws a lot of touchdowns, just never celebrates. He smiles. And I remember when we came back versus the Saints, and he scored on the zone read, and she was like, finally some emotion. But I'm like, that's what makes us good to me. Where other guys can be emotional and up and down, and he can just be right there and lead guys, and like guys want to be led by him, which helps. So like. I think
I love that because it's hard. Like I remember being there and he was the backup. Aaron was the guy. And it was always questions around like Jordan's demeanor and like, does he really care about this? And like, bro, no shit, he cares about this. Like, you know what I mean? Like guys would question those types of things and the media would like, he doesn't show whatever. And I see as a number 2 guy, how he's not fiery enough. He doesn't want it bad enough. He doesn't, you know what I mean? We're like, no, maybe you should look for a little bit of that in a guy because he's not stone cold like Jalen Hurts where it's like the whole world's against you, like motivational quotes, you know what I mean? Like he's not that guy, but he's also not the so high, so low. And I think a group like he's just doing his job, and it's whether it works, whether it doesn't, he's going to show up, he's going to do his job, and he has fun doing it. Don't get me wrong, but I think guys can respect that really well in the locker room, and it makes guys play harder.
100%. And to me, like, that's just superpower. Like, the fact, no matter how the game is going, he's just like he's always right there. Like, he's a damn good teammate. You know what I mean? Like, he celebrates his guys' success on both sides of the ball. Like the story came out, he has the dinner weekly, invites the guys on, like that's real. Like, that's who he is. So, like, he cares. It's just, it looks different. And I think that rubs people the wrong way when it's like, well, he's not. Like, no, he cares. It's just, and to me, it doesn't matter if you like it. His teammates love it. Love that dude. Like, they love playing for him. So, that's why I'm encouraged about next year. But again, I want to see how we handle success. Like, to me, it's easy to be the underdog, just in terms of like having that chip on your shoulder. But now, when the target's on your back, how do you handle that? Like, how do you respond to that? So that'd be a interesting thing to see next year.
I love that. Well, I'm gonna have that be what wraps up the Packers portion of this. I think I don't want to give everybody too much, because we definitely got to have you back on another one when we get close to the draft and stuff. But I think that gives Packers fans something to look forward to and to start thinking about as they're turning the page and mourning a really tough loss like we all were. But I want to talk about these other games. So I know we had on slate to talk about like what happened in these other games. So like we have the Lions and the Bucks. Like, that game was closer than anticipated, but I kind of think we all saw that coming. Like, the Bucks weren't the better team, in my opinion. The Lions, if the Lions lost at home against the Bucks, I would have been shocked. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like, Detroit's a really, really good football team, and I hate saying that because I don't want them to be good, but like, they're well coached, they're explosive. I think the play call on offense is really, really good. I think Aaron Glenn's a really good play call on defense. Like, I think they just they know who they are, and they play to their strengths as much as possible. And like, I knew they would win, and because I didn't think Baker could go there and win. I thought he would turn the ball over a couple times. Just things I've seen from playing him outside of this year, where he decided to be a number one pick again. But
he played really well for most of the year. I think we all saw it coming, though.
He was solid, but like, to that point, like, I've watched enough film of him where I'm like, he's going to give you an opportunity if you catch him. And that's exactly what happened. So like, and again, the Lions aren't like the most talented roster left. Like, they aren't, but they are so well coached, and they play so hard, and they're fundamentally sound. Like, just everything that kind of goes under the radar. Next thing you know,
they could catch you sleeping.
And now they're sitting here in the playoffs, in the NFC Championship game. You know what I mean? Like, it's impressive.
Yeah, you can't sleep on them. I think like the 49ers, same thing. Like, 49ers should win this game, right? Like, this game next week, they should win it, but the Lions will take every opportunity and capitalize on it if you give it to them. And I don't know, we're going to talk a little bit about last week, diving a little bit earlier for next week coming up while we have you. But I'm looking at the Ravens, right? Like, Ravens look to me like the best team in the league, and their defense, in my opinion, super sound. They play a way that allows them to capitalize on like tip balls, overthrows. Like, they are very ball aware, which obviously we talk about on defense. The Texans, they ran out of juice, right? Like, they had a hell of a run to get there. CJ Stroud going to be very good for a very long time, in my opinion. Like, he's doing things that, like, and I'm excited to hear your perspective on CJ Stroud. We're going to bounce around a little bit. Like, so I'm watching him from like my perspective of quarterback's lens, and I'm like, this dude can make every throw like with such a tight frame and just change his arm angle without needing to step into anything. It's like his throwing form generates power like a boxer. And I'm like, from a scout's perspective, what do you see in how he throws and how he manipulates?
That was the one thing I loved about him coming out. Like, I knew we weren't taking him, but like, we watch every guy the same as if we are, because we want to know these dudes for when we play against them. Maybe he's a free agent. You know what I mean? Like, so we watch everybody with the right intent, and like, you watching him like, oh, he's he's the best one last year. Like he was, and to me, what like did it for me, it was the Georgia game. He was taking some shots in the pocket. Like his poise and, to your point, his ability to change his arm angle and get rid of the ball with velocity. I'm sitting there like, he's gonna be a problem. And then you look early in the year, it was started a little slow, and then he started getting the rhythm and start understanding these. I said, oh yeah, this dude's good. He's really good.
Dude, that Georgia game for me, like, it's easy to say looking back, like, oh, the Georgia game, but like, no, I was same place. I'm like, you could not tell me that he was not the best quarterback in the draft. No matter, like, there was, if you watch ball and understand ball, to see what his ceiling could be, and like, no shot against Bryce Young. He's been in a shit situation all year. Like that is, not many people would have success in that. But I know like the argument has been, well, put Bryce in Houston's shoes. Houston would have been a playoff team with Bryce. Like, the things that CJ Stroud did to elevate them, and it all came, in my opinion, like, he can make plays outside of the pocket, but dude, to be able to stand there and just like look down the barrel of that gun and deliver, it was just, I felt like I was watching Jordan and CJ do that all year long, better than any quarterbacks in the league, of standing there. Like, Jordan does a great job of leaning back and throwing at the last second and flicking, where Stroud is different, but very similar, where like he manipulates his arm to do it instead of his body.
Right.
But it's two ways to do the same thing. Like, instead of stepping into a throw like most guys need to do, big hitch to deliver like a dagger downfield, these dudes are just flicking the ball and it's jumping out of their hands. And I'm like, there's like, that is a talent that I'm like, that needs to be quantified in a box check, because you look at some guys and like, that just isn't normal. Like, not a lot of guys can do that.
No.
So I'm assuming like,
to that point, that's why you can't make it a box check. Like, that's not like
you're right.
Like, the average quarterback can't do it. You know what I mean? Like you want all you got, not happening. Because like, that's just that part of the game where it's like, you don't practice that. That's not coaching.
There's no way to practice that.
No, that's just instincts and trusting who you are as a quarterback. But yeah, like, I think the thing I was impressed most with CJ this year was, because I didn't see it much on tape when he was coming out, is the fact that he can make plays outside of the pocket. Like, he was a much better athlete than I suspected. Because I'm sitting there like, oh, this dude, like, he actually has some legs on him. You know, like, he can extend the play and make big time throws once he's on the move. And you saw it a little bit, but like, because he wasn't
needed in college.
Pressure, exactly. Like, they would win on the outside, and they had
dogs.
Pretty good old line. You know what I mean? Like, so he was clean pockets for most of the time. But that's why I said the Georgia game, when he was feeling constant pressure and he's still delivering some dots, I'm sitting there like, okay, all right.
Yeah. That's cool.
Sign still delivered. This dude's going to be pretty good.
How do you build around? I was going to ask how you build around a guy like CJ Stroud, and the same conversation probably stands for, you know, a Jordan Love. But when you have a young QB, obviously you're so happy that you have who seems like the guy. What's the next step in the offseason for a group like yours? Like, is there a position group you're focusing on? Is it a type of person you're focusing on? Is it all of it, I'm assuming?
Free agency too. I want to know about like how does free agency come into this? Because you see guys like T. Higgins available. You see Mike Evans. Like, do you need him? No. Like, and I look at those two, I'm like, I would rather have a T. Higgins type than a Mike Evans and Packers specific like situation.
Right.
Just because you don't need an X. You need like a gadget. Across the field guy. So it's two-part question.
First part is like, how do you build? Like, first you have to make sure they are protected. To me, that's the thing that Carolina has. To me, like, you go all in on getting that dude tackles and guards. You know what I mean? And really guards, because he's shorter. So you need sturdy guys who can protect the depth of the pocket, whereas tackles.
Such a good point, man.
They protect the width, but those guards, like, he needs, big, sturdy bodies. Maybe they can't move that well in the run game. Well, you change the run game because they can protect him. But yeah, like, first you got to make sure that they're those guys are protected up front. Like, because if they're on their back, they can't be good. Like, I don't care who they are. That, like, and when a guy gets hit enough, okay, for people watching, you get punched in the face enough, you're going to start dipping, dodging out, like, and that's essentially what quarterback is when it's constant pressure. It's like, I'm tired of getting hit. this ball is coming out, and I don't care where it goes because I'm tired of getting my body beat up. That's the natural human response to getting hit. So I think I think for the Texans, like they're going to do a good job, but and they're going to get Kenyon Green back, who they drafted in the first round from Texas A&M a couple years ago. So they'll be better up front. But yeah, I think it starts there, and then you get better on defense so that you can get that guy the ball more. Get him more touches, like because guys like you get C.J. Stroud 2 extra possessions, that's at least 10 points. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's maybe a couple more wins. So it's to me it starts up front on both sides where you protect the quarterback and you have to affect the other quarterback so that you can get the ball.
I love that. I think that's going to be a really good sticking point for fans listening because most of the first reaction is like, get him a receiver, get him a Devontae Adams, get him no, what like really changes the game up front and extra possessions.
Yep.
And like, if you can win up front, I think that sturdy pocket point is so good because that goes into like, how do you have to build a team? And if you have a franchise quarterback, you got to protect them right? Like look at the Jets this year. Their O-line was tough, and every quarterback that came in after Aaron had a really tough time, and it didn't matter who they were.
Yep.
And we can't even say that Aaron would have had an amazing year because of what it looked like up front, right? Like we can assume because of who he is, but everybody needs an offensive line that can play and keep you upright. And so building a team, I just think it's so cool to hear from your perspective because these are the conversations that you have every single day in your job for the last decade, damn near. And
damn, I feel old.
Yeah. Hey, you're getting old, man. We both are. It's crazy. You're a little bit older than me though, which I appreciate. But I really love being on your side is a true chess game. Like it's a game of chess, both with yourself and with other teams that you're trying to get ahead of. And again, as a quarterback, what makes me feel the happiest? Man, knowing I'm not going to get my shit beat out of me. And 2, knowing I have a good defense. Like, I think the most dangerous quarterback is one with a good defense that you can rely on because then it's not all on you.
Yep.
Like, nobody wants to be like Phillip Rivers his whole career and having to just sling it out every single game and know you're probably going to lose if they get the ball last.
Right.
Like, that's not fun for anybody. And I think you look at teams like the Bills, that's what happened with the Bills last night. Like, the Bills offense was doing well. They were rolling, but like they still couldn't get a stop.
Which was surprising to me because Buffalo traditionally they play smart, sound football and like
just busted, man.
They just could not make a play when they needed to on defense, and it was frustrating to watch because like I know those guys there in their front office well. One of my best friends in the business, works there. But yeah, I'm sitting there like, damn it, Josh just needs one stop. Just one. Just a turnover. Something needs to happen, and it never happened.
I just didn't see it. Like I had picked the Bills. Like that's who I thought was going to win the game, and I knew it was going to be a tough game. But like to your point of like the soundness of this game, Travis Kelce's 2 touchdowns that he had, one was on a busted coverage. It was a corner out versus cover 3, I believe, and like there was nobody to be found. And then he got a screen thrown to him where the person that set the edge gave up the edge. He was able to bounce outside. And I'm like, that's just like the technical part of football that gets lost when you have guys injured and new guys have to step up. And like they had the right play call for both plays on defense, and they just didn't execute. And
one of my coaches, Marcus Robertson, he works with the Saints now. I never forget this for as long as I live because he always preached it. Make the plays you're supposed to make.
Yep.
Sometimes that's just doing your job. That's just setting the edge, make sure the ball gets turned back inside. And last night, Buffalo just didn't make enough of those plays. And not like plays on the ball. Just stay in your gap. Set the edge. Stay deep as the deepest. Like play with good odds. Like the little things that you talk about training camp early in the year that kind of get lost in the shuffle at times, where it comes back to bite you eventually if you're not honed in on them. So that was very tough to watch.
Yeah, that was my biggest takeaway of that game. And I think again, now we've covered kind of what went on. We have next week to look forward to before we wrap this episode up. Like we have some really good football coming up. I think, look, you got Chiefs Ravens. I want to hear your first thought on this. I personally think the Ravens are going to win this game. I think the Chiefs defense gives them a chance because they're pretty sound, but they look susceptible to the run game, especially when the quarterback's involved in the run game.
Yeah.
You're playing against Baltimore. That's got to be the X factor there. Like, I want to hear kind of what you're looking at. And I think maybe not so much a prediction. I bet you have a prediction, but more so like, what are you looking for to be like the keys to the game?
Well, first one is they have to get hits on Lamar.
Yeah.
Like, you have to hit him. Again, like, it just goes back to human nature where if you're hitting him and, like, I'm talking about you don't let him slide, you don't let him get out of bounds, and you make him get up off the ground enough, those quarterback runs are starting to look a little different. And, like, he's fast, he's tough, he's explosive, but Chris Jones hits you enough.
Chris Jones is a big dude.
That's a big dude right there. You know what I mean? So, like, to me, like it can go either way. I know Baltimore is favorite, but like that dude 15 is still there. Like he hasn't been playing the best this year, but he's still there. And
this year doesn't matter. You saw last night everything and that's what we say about the Chiefs. Like,
it's the playoffs.
The playoff Chiefs show up, and Kelsey hasn't done shit in months. What happens this past? Got to have it. 2 touchdowns, big game, girlfriend in the stands. Like, it's dude, now they go to Baltimore and like, dude, this game isn't. I think the Ravens should win, and like this game's either going to be a really close Chiefs win or it's going to be a Ravens blowout.
Yep.
And that's just, I see it the same way because when the Ravens can control the clock, and if the Ravens get up by 10 points at any point in this game, that shit's over. Like, they can churn the clock. But then you look at Mahomes too, and Mahomes is there. Like, I'm excited to watch it. I think we're going to be really fortunate. Like, I know you're still in the game. I'm on the more of the fan side with the media side now. Like, we just get to watch really good football.
Oh, 100%.
Like 100%. Such good football. So I'm excited. Tyler, what do you think, man?
Producer Roddy put these stats in here, and I think it's worth reading about Mahomes in the playoffs because we talk about how great he's been. And he's now played 16 postseason games, so the equivalent of 1 full season. And he's 13-3 for 4,500 yards, a 67% completion percentage, 38 TDs to 7 interceptions, and then he has 5 more TDs rushing on the ground. Dude, so in those
he has an
16
MVP
postseason
season.
games,
in the playoffs.
He is an MVP season
when it matters the most.
The playoffs.
That's crazy.
Which is insane. And I think it's interesting too. Like, Brandon, I'm curious, do teams change their philosophy over time? And I ask that because it seems like the Chiefs have been winning more with defense this year. Obviously, Mahomes is still great, and you're never counted out when that happens. But it seems like they've almost shifted more. And I don't know if that's just a matter of like they have more guys on that side of the ball, but it seems like there's been a bit of a shift. And I know we saw that with the Patriots where like some years they were explosive on offense and then some years they won it with their defense. So like, what's the conversation like when you're looking for guys?
I just think so. Like for them, part of that is because they're like running out of money. So, and then they've hit on draft picks. Like Snead is one of my favorite guys to watch. Like I love watching that dude play. And it's McDuffie and I forgot the safety's name. I want to say Cook but like they're like those guys are technically cheap, right? But they hit on those draft picks and then they paid their stars, but their stars are top earners, like highest paid D tackle, tight end, quarterback. You know what I mean? Like they're like top 5.
Yeah.
So when you're running out of money, you have to hit on guys and like to me, like they just like they've done a good job of understanding how they had to evolve because you have the quarterback. All right, we lose Tyreek. We're not as good at receiver. We drafted Rasheed Rice. He's coming along, going to be a good player. But our defense is going to be what we hang our hats on. So it just changes year to year. Really in the playoffs too, because playoffs is a whole new season. Whole new season. Everything you've done up to that point doesn't even matter anymore. So that's why like I want to count the Chiefs out, but I can't because they've been here before. They've won AFC championships on the road. Like they've been in these games. They've been underdogs in the AFC championship before. You know what I mean? Like and when you have a quarterback like that, it's like
anything's possible.
Anything's possible. And that defense with Spagnuolo, like they might throw something at Lamar he's never seen because he's an aggressive play caller. I remember Jordan's first start, he blitzed like 67, 70% of the snaps. I'm sitting there like, my God, like who blitzes on 1st and 10? Who runs 0 on P and 10? You know, so like it'll be interesting to watch. But yeah, like they haven't changed philosophies just in terms of who they are. They've just kind of molded to what the roster is, which is why they're still in the picture.
Yeah, their defense is like, I think we'll know after the first quarter or two, like what the game plan is going to look like defensively, how they're going to plan to stop Lamar. And I think I don't think the Ravens just win this game by getting their 4 or 5 yards of carry. Like they're going to have to find explosive plays, and that defense is hard to find explosive plays against right now.
Yep.
Like the plays that Josh made last night, that were the big plays, were freaking crazy.
Right.
Like he had to, like the chances of those being completed, like the little stutter and throw the like dart at the front of the end zone. Like not many guys are going to make those plays. And like, I think the X factor in this game is like, what is the Ravens receiving core going to do? Because this is not just going to be a run for 200 yards really easily, control the clock. Like you can't do that against Mahomes because he can score quick, in my opinion. So I'm excited to see what both game plans are. And I think by halftime, we'll know what it looks like. We'll know how it all plays out. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited for that game. And then we have the other side of it, the 49ers, the Lions. Like, I think we know what needs to happen on both sides. I'd imagine the formula is pretty similar. If you can affect the quarterback, you can win the game on both sides. Brock, for as bad of a game as it seemed, he found a way at the end, but like he did give some gimme interceptions that were missed.
Yep.
And those were game-changing interceptions that the Lions have capitalized on every single week. Like their defense isn't amazing, but they don't miss their opportunities. And I think that's the difference between their defense and what happened with the Packers game. So like same on the flip side, if Jared Goff gets pressured and he fumbles and he crumbles in the pocket, he's going to throw it to you. Yeah. And I'm looking at this game like, damn, it's the 49ers should win, but Gibbs is a walking home run. You have Amon-Ra, who's like a gritty third down receiver who also can be a walking home run. Like Debo looks like his shoulder's messed up and he's probably not going to play, at least from what we know about that situation. And now you're on CMC versus like a really annoying, like gritty Lions defense that just doesn't go away. They're like a gnat. Like I don't think this game's as cut and dry either. And I want to hear, before we kind of wrap this up, like your thoughts there too.
I think the X factor in that game will be CMC out the backfield as a pass catcher. Because if they can get the Lions and big people on defense and get him out in space, that's where he becomes a problem.
21 personnel, like 22, but then they're in base or heavy. And then you got Anzalone covering him. Right. That's a problem.
Because if you play base to it, then they throw it. But if you go nickel, then they line up and run it. You know what I mean? Like, so like, I think how Kyle, you know, kind of decides how he's going to disperse that dude, especially if Debo doesn't play.
Yeah.
It'll be
CMC is going to have to be Debo and himself.
Yes, 100%.
Yep.
100%. Because I know, to your point, Brock's going to give him an opportunity. Like it's written. Like even if everything's perfect, like we saw it last week, he will get
a little pressure in his lap. It's to your point with shorter guys, like how sturdy can the center and guards be to keep that pocket like distance?
Right. So if you can collapse that pocket, make that ball sail, make him drop that elbow, ball sails, he's going to give him a chance. But ultimately, I think it comes down to how they figure out how to stop Christian McCaffrey, like how to contain him.
I love that. Well, dude, this has been probably the coolest episode we've had because just the insight that you bring, like officially a friend of the show, fans watching, I know are going to love this. I think the one way that I wanted to end this, we've talked about it before. I want your and Goot's scouting report on me from when I was coming out. What were your guys' thoughts? What were the wild cards? Personality, all of it. Did you guys know I'd be in media? Did you know that I'd be speaking my mind every single week and shit talking people?
Well,
like I need to know.
We knew that after you were in the building. Like, this dude's different, but in like a good way.
Yeah,
you weren't an asshole.
I appreciate that.
So that always helps. But no, bro, like Goody loved you. Like, thought you had a big arm, can make all the throws. You were a better athlete than what people gave you credit for.
Let's go.
Even though you only ran 4.9.
Yeah.
You were really smart. I remember seeing you at the Senior Bowl. Like, you were a good teammate. Like, we thought if we can get you in the building, you'd be good behind Aaron. Learning wasn't an issue. Big Mike likes you, and
I love Big Mike.
He don't like anybody.
Let's go. I'm good with Big Mike, so I've made it
That's
in life.
my guy. But no, I mean, it was just a matter of just time. But you had a quick release, good mechanics. You could spin it. You could throw it downfield. It was just a matter of it was your decision making at that time because you had a lot of faith in your arm.
Hey, that's par for the Packers course, man.
Kurt being overconfident in the scouting report.
Who would have thought?
Listen, I remember the conversation because like Goody loves you. Mike was like, but he's like, he might throw it to him. He was like, yeah, but like that's confidence. I'm sitting there like, what?
I love that.
Oh no, my internet. 3 other dudes. You said no, but you were his guy, man. You were definitely his guy. But yeah, like it was a matter of just you was like, well, why did he make this throw?
Hey, I probably couldn't tell you because I thought I could fit it in.
and the crazy part is we could see you work through progressions, so processing wasn't an issue. Yeah, it was all confidence. This dude. It was. I'm talking about. It's the smallest of windows. And he's trying to throw a dig in between 2 backers and underneath the safety, and he's gonna let it rip. I mean, let it fly. So, but no, you had a good scout report on you.
I love that.
Is there an aspect of drafting a quarterback that you know is going to be a backup that like there's a, is there like a vibe check that you have to do? Obviously we know Kurt and he's an easygoing guy, but is there a type of guy that's better for the backup role than a different kind of guy?
I think Kurt can answer that better than me, honestly. Like just knowing what the backup has to do week to week for the starter and for the defense, like you got to pass the vibe check.
You have to. And I think like that's the one thing, like the guys on defense all respected me, especially in the Packers building, because I was not going to let them sleep and just walk through practice. Like if they were not on their shit, I was going to let them know. I was going to let them know in walkthrough. I was literally, there was no playing. Like I was going to no look in practice. I was going to no look in walkthrough. Like I got you, I got you. And I took that to heart where if the defense played well that week, I felt like I did my job in practice. Like I truly was pissed off when the defense was letting up shit that I knew I prepared them for.
Right.
And it might not even have been my responsibility to prepare them. Like it was the coaches, but I took so much ownership in my role. And I think sometimes to a fault because I'm I take no matter if I'm doing it, I'm doing it. And sometimes they want guys to chill a little bit, but that's just not who I was. And I was never going to be that guy. So, and that was same thing in the quarterback room with Aaron. He didn't want a guy that was going to kiss ass.
Nope.
He didn't want a guy that was going to yes, man. And he wanted a guy that if Aaron didn't feel like speaking up that week, Kurt, fucking say something because I'm not doing it this week.
Yep.
And right, wrong, or indifferent, that might be why I'm not there anymore. Just clashing and whatnot. But I am so happy with how I went about my business because I knew that I was going to do it in what I thought was the right way. And the guys around me and my teammates were going to respect it regardless of how long my career was going to be. I was undrafted, went 5 years. It was a long time. Felt I felt like if I had the chance to go in a game, I could have been the guy in the right situation. And I can be happy hanging it up and doing this stuff, knowing that I did what I felt like I needed to.
Yeah.
Just nobody ever got hurt in front of me. To be in for 5 years and the starter only missed 1 game ever is pretty wild.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
That's I have to tell this story. So I was on the practice squad my first year in Green Bay, and to your point, when you going against the other side, you're preparing them for that week, and I took pride in that. So it's one practice, it's a Wednesday practice, and we pick off Wednesday or Thursday, and we pick off Aaron 3 times. He only had maybe 2 or 3 picks on the year. This was 11, so it's his first MVP season. Mm-hmm. So McCarthy, anytime the offense has a bad practice, the whole team sucked. Let's put that out there. Offensive coaches, whole team was bad. But like, we picked them off like 3 or 4 times, and like we're celebrating. We're doing this celebration, all this stuff.
Dude, there's nothing better on practice squad than because the cards are set up for you to fail
every time.
Yeah,
oh my God! It's like, hey, jump
That's
this
funny.
pitch. No, he's running a corner route behind me. I'm in cover 3, bro. No, not doing it. But like, we picked him off, and like he was pissed. I'm talking about pissed because like we were like over celebrating, and sure enough, the next practice,
oh no,
my right-handed guy, the only time the ball touched the ground was during the snap. He lit us up, and the last pass he threw, we were in like cover 2 in the red zone. He pointed at me and threw a no-look pass and did the belt before the ball was completed. Like I'm sitting there like,
yes,
okay, he's ready. We go out and obliterate Chicago. Like, we beat them like they stole something. Like, this is when like they were like rolling. Like, they had a really good defense. That Tampa 2 with Lovie Smith, like they were a good squad. And Aaron went out there like it was nothing, and just I'm sitting there like, oh, I did my job. But when he threw a no-look pass on me and celebrated before the ball hit it was Greg Jennings. Before it hit his hands, I was like, yeah, okay. All right.
Yep. You did your job that week, man. You earned the check.
Oh,
yep. You earned the check. I love that. Well, dude, we'll have to chop it up again. I love the stories. I love the perspective. I'm like so excited for this shit to get edited and chopped up and pushed out, because I think people are really going to love it. And, you know, a lot of guys get like other players and stuff on, and they're sharing very similar perspectives where like you were a player, so you have that.
Yeah.
You're now a scout. Like, fast track to like just keep moving in your career. Like, I know you have huge aspirations to be a GM one day and all that good stuff. And it's like, it's cool that, like, in my opinion, the ceiling of being the best you can be is when you've been in all the different shoes and have been able to apply it. Where like not every GM was a player, and you know what I mean? Not every coach was a player. Like, I think the best of the best of the best have all the perspectives, and you're just stashing the perspectives, man, and putting them to the toolbox. So thanks for coming on the show, man. I appreciate everybody that's tuned in and watching.
Thank y'all for having me.
Dude, yeah, you're welcome anytime. And I'm excited to get this out for everybody. We'll catch you guys on the next episode.